Welcome to another edition of Florida Newsmakers. I'm Michelle Ubben, and I'm here with our special guest today, Florida Insurance Commissioner Kevin McCarty. Commissioner, thank you for being with us.
Oh, Michelle, I'm really glad to be here.
Well, here we are at the midway point of another quiet hurricane season. Do you think that maybe there's a higher level of complacency because we haven't been hit in a while?
Absolutely. Matter of fact, Governor Bush used to refer to it as the culture of amnesia. The further away you are from a disaster, the more complacent we get. But we really need to still remain very vigilant because we may be halfway through, but we are still in a very high hazard time period, and we need to make sure that we are prepared. We have an evacuation strategy for our family, and then we have a financial plan to make sure that our most valuable asset, our home, is adequately protected.
Now, if Florida did suffer a direct hit from a hurricane, that could have significant impacts on Florida ratepayers.
Yes, well, you know, the rates are really a result of past experience and future losses. And a great component of Florida premium, about 60% of that premium, is driven by the cost of reinsurance. And so anytime anything affects the cost of reinsurance will directly affect consumers. But we have had a great infusion of capital in the reinsurance market over the last several years, largely as a result of the financial crisis when we learned that our risk portfolio wasn't as diversified as we thought. So we've got billions of dollars from pension funds flowing into Bermuda and elsewhere, when makes Florida companies the beneficiaries and make sure that our policyholders have more reinsurance than ever, which gives them a greater capacity to pay claims, and in many cases, even lowers rates.
Well, in fact, you've said that Florida's insurance market is the healthiest it's been in 10 years. To what extent are the Florida homegrown companies part of that success story?
Well, they're a large part, because many of the national players, as part of their risk reduction strategy, have reduced their exposure in Florida by design. That vacuum was largely filled by investors in small companies, many of them who've gone on to be large, regional companies with, millions of dollars in assets, and have been very successful companies. And they have largely leveraged off the global reinsurance market. So you have people who have trained expertise in the Florida market, which is not for the faint of heart, because our market is very different than Nebraska or central United States. And it takes a really different management team to manage a Florida company. So having specialized companies really has benefited Florida, both in adding capacity and bringing better claims paying ability for Floridians.
Now, you've played a leadership role in the National Association of Insurance Commissioners over the years. How is Florida different from other states, for better or for worse?
Well, it's very interesting because, in many cases, Florida is a leader, and in many cases, Florida is an outlier. Clearly, in the property market, we have been a leader in developing standards. We're the first state to have a collateral reduction program to provide incentives for more capital to flow to Florida. We also are a leader on data collection. One of the first things after a storm is policy leaders and the public demand information about the payment of claims and the severity of the storms. And we were key architects of some of the major pieces of data collection software that is now used throughout the nation. So we're very proud of our role, and part of it is because of the unique nature of Florida's catastrophe exposure.
How much of a problem is fraud, and what efforts has the department put forth to try to get that under control? Well,
fraud has been a major problem in Florida across all lines. I mean, we call it the whack-a-mole syndrome, because you stamp out fraud in one area, it seems to pop up in another. I know in the homeowners market, we try our best to develop policy forms and underwriting to see what we can do to minimize fraud. But we're very proud in Florida to have one of the best fraud investigation and prosecution units under the leadership of our CFO, Jeff Atwater. We have been very successful across all lines in prosecuting cases. And so a combination of legislation to minimize that, to have adequate prosecutors available, and the good work that the CFO's office is doing, I think, is having a dampening effect on the frequency and severity of fraud.
Well, Commissioner, thank you so much for being with us today, and here's hoping that hurricane season remains quiet. Until next time on Florida Newsmakers, thank you for joining us.